Islam, 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 Hotep, 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 Assalamu alaikum, Assalamu alaikum, Assalamu alaikum, Alafia, 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 Que pasa, Que pasa, Que pasa, Shalom, 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 Assalamu alaikum, Assalamu alaikum, Assalamu alaikum, if I haven't already said that. God bless, God bless, God bless. Power to the people, power to the people, power to the people. How y'all doing? How y'all doing? How y'all doing? Grand rising, grand rising, grand rising. Family, this platform is called the Sheik. Your host is Chief Justice Durand with Murrell Bay. The authority is Chief Justice Durand with Murrell Bay. In capitis, diminutio, nolo, in red ink, in proprio persona, sui juris, in proprio solo, and in proprio heredes. All rise and stand and remain standing into perpetuity. This is a sovereign, living, ancient, Article 3, Moorish American, Moroccan, consular court action. I am living justice, Durand with Murrell, in capitis, diminutio, nolo, in red ink, in proprio persona, sui juris, in proprio solo, and in proprio heredes. My free chosen national appellation is Ogunwole, Supreme Seven Solution Ill, in capitis, diminutio, nolo, in red ink, in proprio persona, sui juris, in proprio solo, and in proprio heredes. We are the original indigenous, sovereign, ancient, Moroccan, Moorish American descendants of the great pharaohs of Kemet and of the ancient Moabites and Canaanites. Our full faith and trust, our allegiance, our credit, and our energy are hereby vested in ourselves, for we are the people who are the original indigenous, natural, divine, ancient empire state of Morocco and the de jure Moorish National Republic federal government. We hereby exercise all sovereign rights at this time and at all points in time, non-pro-tempore. We are the most ancient sovereign court, both in heaven and at earth. Family, I have a document here, and it reads as such, or I state it as such. The Moorish National Republic, Moorish Divine and National Movement of the World, Aboriginal and Indigenous Natural Peoples of Northwest Mexico, North America, International Proclamation, Affidavit of Status, Aboriginal Indigenous Moorish Empire. Okay, I first like to inform you, before we get to that part, which is the end, who signed it. This is an affidavit issued issued to the all caps United States of America, to the Honorable President Barack Obama, by the witness and affirmer Tarik Bey, and by the Menis Nobilis Bay. Okay, and I read this document, and it was profound, so profound, that I got to share it with my family. I faithfully adhered to the concept of each one teach one, as man sharpens man, or man sharpens man as steel sharpens steel. So since this was enlightening to my mind, it's only fair and right that I share it to enlighten yours. Okay? So I will begin at the top, and this is dated 2011, August 4th. As I said before, the all caps United States of America, which now has been terminated. Okay? The all caps corporations no longer exist. They are dead in law. To the Honorable President Barack Obama, 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, Washington, District of Columbia, United States Republic. Greetings from the Moorishe Nation, the Aboriginal natural people of the land. This international proclamation is made on behalf of all Aboriginal Moors, Murrells dwelling on the inherited territorial lands of our foremothers and forefathers, being Northwest Amexium, Northwest Africa, Northwest America, the North Gate, also referred to as the continental United States, North America. This affidavit is made as a public notice to the President of the United States of North America and to the honorable nations of the earth. And I will read it as it's written. Keeping in mind that there may be some corrections that need to be made, but I'm not the author of the document, even though I have the authority to make the corrections. I will leave as is until necessary, and if it ever appears to be necessary. Okay. This affidavit is made as a public notice to the President of the United States of North America and to the honorable nations of the earth, and stands to acknowledge all the enlightened Moors who have regained consciousness of their just saying quinity. Yes, noting an awareness of the miscreant, misclassifications, and misnomers socialized as the colonial orientation brands such as Negro, Colored, Black, African, American, Ethiopians, Puerto Ricans, and Jamaicans, etc., etc. Be it affirmed that the geographical continent known today and referred to as North America, inclusive of the area politically associated as the United States of America, is in fact Northwest Amexium. Ancient Amexium includes and consists of the territories North America, South America, Central America, and the Atlantis Islands, referred to as the Caribbean Islands. The Aboriginal natural people of these lands are of Moorish descent, being who their foremothers and their forefathers were and are without doubt or contradiction. Moors are the heirs apparent to the lands and territories forenamed, and are the rightful benefactors to the resources and hereditaments, corporal and incorporeal. The primogeniture foremothers and forefathers of Northwest Amexium, Moors, are the natural people of the land who permitted the Albion / Anglo men referred to today as Europeans / colonists to establish moral government guided by an ethically adopted constitution. The Europeans were conditionally allowed to come to our inherited land and secure for them to live in peace from their oppressors in Europe. This allodial-oriented thinking and consciousness is clearly outlined in the Declaration of Independence, a nature's law document expressing the precepts upon which the European colony persons declared their independence. Let me make it clear that these Albions are in fact not originally Europeans. Let me repeat that. Let me make it clear that these Albions are in fact not originally Europeans, as Europe is a continent of the ancient Moabite queen Europa, who permitted the Albions to live on the land known as Isles of Albion, or England land. However, and for making political distinctions, Albions are referred to as Europeans. The Amity and Commerce Peace Treaty Agreement was initially instituted between our forefathers, King George, and our forefathers, the Sultan of Morocco, Muhammad ibn Abdullah, in the year 1199. Corresponding to 1786 AD and ratified under the Arthur St. Clair administration in the year 1787 AD. Corresponding to 1200. King George has been misrepresented by European colonizers and reconstructors of history and given the specious appearance of a pale-faced complexion. This type and formula of misrepresented history was done by consistent and deceptive efforts to write themselves into various vital or authoritative aspects of world history, some in which they actually played no factual or primal part. European colonial misinformation strategies and distortions were set in place and perpetrated for the support of forced servitude, arbitrary and peonage, profiteering. As an example, national identity is a primal issue associated with sociological and estate matters and controversies, invoking by their nature diversity or consular jurisdiction affirmations, establishing proof for the record as thus needed and necessary for clarifying the true status of the natural people of the land. Nationality without qualifications has been referred to by monopolizing European colonists as their 14th Amendment conditions for citizenship. This artificial statutory construct was devised by colorable intent in order to confuse the natural people. However, on this North American continent, nationality, which equates to citizenship, can only be determined by Justise Quintus, as this North American continent is under the jurisdiction of binding international treaty law. Justise Quintus is derived from Moorish Latin and means right of blood. It stands as a rule in jurisprudence that a child's citizenship is determined by its parents' citizenship. Justise Quintus. Citizenship is not determined by one's place of birth, but by having a parent or parents by blood who are citizens of the nation. Just sanguineous rights are mandated by international treaty, with citizenship definitions imposed by the international community. Let me elaborate. This is something that I just recently learned in depth, or more in depth. It was more, I got more clarity from it, okay? Let me continue, or I'm getting ready to continue. I don't have to ask for permission to continue. I'm just going to state that I'm about to continue. Need to specify that. There have been several occasions where many European colonizers, immigrants residing on the American continent, have professed ignorance about who the Moors are, what the Moorish Empire is, and where it is geographically located. Others fringe in absolute ignorance of the undeniable and vital parts and influences that the Emperor of Morocco and the Moors played in their very existence as an entity nation on this Northgate continent. As for their sources of higher learning, review, and study, the Renaissance, initiated by the Moors for the Albion's extraction and rebirth out of the Dark Ages and brought into the marvelous light of the modern era of sciences, literature, architecture, medicine, and advanced civilization, etc. I would state for the record noting some of the human rights violations that have been wrongfully put upon the Moors who have suffered under the brands Negro, colored, Black, and African American, etc. These birthrights stealing brands under barrister processes imply and denote one or those who are considered dead in the eyes of the law, absent of all civil liberties, void of civil rights, and are categorized as artificial persons under the 14th Amendment and its associated legislation. Therefore, such branded persons are regulated and administered by statutes as corporate wards, real estate, and as inanimate objects, implying that all of their inheritance have been abandoned. This legal trickery was done in order to establish the conditions for the foreign corporate states and their agencies to execute the rights, the properties, the wealth, and the hereditaments of aboriginal natural peoples. These misclassified and branded Moors are, without a doubt, intentionally miseducated and misinformed. This state-sponsored foul socialization engineering was done by colonizing Europeans in order to suppress history and truth, and was institutionalized to cause the unconscious Moors to remain ignorant and passive about who they are by blood, by nationality, and by birthrights. I speak out against such artfully constructed frauds and make this known to all European colonizers / immigrants or occupiers who have said or who have propagated this feigned lack of knowledge of these historical facts. I also rebuke, and rebut those who have continued to imply and teach distorted and reconstructed history, deemed to cipher, degenerate, and pervert the progress of unconscious Moors and their descendants of today. The transparent European feudal law practices and their de facto posturing of fringing, F-E-I-G-N-I-N-G. Ignorance of the law is no excuse. Law, jurisprudence, consists of language, history, and culture. I say to all the monopoly-oriented Europeans presently controlling the United States government at that time, and appearing to be in control, I must say, because I just said, that documented evidence placed in your own congressional records reaffirms the identities of the parties involved and unequivocally projects the relationships between yourselves and the sovereign Moors. Although I said I wasn't going to make no corrections, sometimes Spirit compels me to do things that are necessary. The congressional records present with ineradicable clarity, testimony to the Moors' indispensable roles in the foundation activities of this said Republican form of government, founded upon high principles, respect for private property, and girded with statesmanship. And you are hereby commanded to call us Moors and to refer to us by our rightful names and titles. Which I like to add that we do not have names, but we have appellations. Those rightful inherited titles are Il, Bey, Dey, Al, and Ali. To further prove pretense and disingenuousness on part of many European politicians and their agencies' representatives, see American State Papers, Senate 8th Congress, First Section, number 184 and 185, page 591 through 593. The evidence shows where Thomas Jefferson, William Banbridge, and James Simpson discuss and record communications with the Emperor of Morocco. The Moors, who are nationals of Moroccan Empire, are also discussed along with the Treaty of 1786, equal 1199, in which the Emperor of Morocco assures Thomas Jefferson has been accepted and that the European colonists will be protected. Let us also bring into account a revealing letter issued from the hand of President George Washington to Muhammad ibn Abdullah, Sultan of Morocco, and dated December 1st, 1789. The letter was signed and sent in the city of New York, which is and will always be the seat of the Moroccan Empire. Also another detail that I've learned from reading this. Consider the brother who wrote it is highly regarded within the Moorish nation, okay, and considered a historian, okay, and a known wise man by many, which is the reason why I started out saying I wasn't going to make no corrections, just so one can have understanding and overstanding. There has been and is much confusion regarding what the United States of America is founded upon. The true foremothers and forefathers of this North Gate continent are Moors. The established law of the land was absolutely not founded on any Christian religion. That truth was affirmed in the Treaty of Peace and Friendship between the United States and the Bey and subjects of Tripoli of Barbary, signed 1797. Article 11 states, as the government of the United States of America is not in any sense founded on the Christian religion, as it has in itself no character of enmity against the laws, religion, or tranquility of Muslims, and as the said states never entered into any war or act of hostility against any Mohammedan nation. It is declared by the parties that no pretext arising from religious opinions shall ever produce an interruption of the harmony existing between the two countries. Now that I have reaffirmed are in the full presence, I further state for the record that the Treaty of Peace and Friendship is the longest standing treaty unbroken by any Moor and remains in existence today, having been resealed every 50 years. The last scaling or the last sealing of the treaty was in the year 1987 AD. I affirm a peace and friendship with all people who choose to live in peace and friendship on this continent and who support the enforcement of the Constitution for the United States Republic of North America. Let it be known to the all cap letters corporate United States of America that is now dead, its many enclaves, corporate territories doing business as the state of and or as the Commonwealth of, its many registered corporations and its agents and or officers, etc., allele the following. We Moors of Northwest America have never been citizens of the United States of America, nor can we ever be citizens of that foreign entity, as we are Moors of the Moorish Empire under the political classification today, Moorish American nationals. As affirmed in the original 13th article of amendment, we Moors can never be citizens, members of any of the European colonies. Original 13th Amendment, Section 12 of the United States Republic Constitution states, and briefly you may be asking, hold up, you said Amendment 13, Section 12, when it's only 3 sections? According to the one they showed you all, there's only 3 sections, okay? But the original has more, okay? Let me continue and affirm. Section 12, the traffic in slaves with Africa is hereby forever prohibited on pain of death and the forfeiture of all the rights and property of persons engaged therein. and the descendant of Africans shall not be citizens. The same social and political position, excluding descendants of Africans from the United States citizenship, has been perpetually held firm by the occupying Europeans on our land, North America. Their contentious position was also reaffirmed and confirmed by the Supreme Court ruling in the citizenship and status-based Dred Scott case of 1857 AD. The Supreme Court ruling essentially stated the following. In the month of March of the year 1857 AD, the Supreme Court of the United States, led by Chief Justice Roger B. Taney, declared that all blacks, slaves as well as free, were not and could never be citizens of the United States. Thus, the descendants of Africans shall not be citizens. A reaffirmation of that political truth expressed in the original article of Amendment 13 with its 20 sections. It says it had a total of 20 sections in Amendment 13. And compounded by the Dred Scott case, denies United States citizenship to all descendants of Africans. The Europeans coined the brand Negro, Black, and Color, etc., to steal the birthrights of the Moors, who are the aboriginal and indigenous natural peoples of the land. The fact still remains true that the Moors never participated in any free elections by free will or by elected representatives from their own national peers. There is no record in history that shows that Moors, branded as blacks, ever agreed to be United States citizens. There is no public record that ever displayed any evidence of any naturalization process or ceremonies wherein Moors, branded as blacks, have ever agreed to the corporate 14th Amendment citizens of the occupying European colonists. This fact dispels any implied agreement by Moors, branded as black, to participate as artificial persons and or corporate entity citizens under the plausible 14th Amendment. Any untoward actions or claims initiated by United States corporate persons or government agencies proposing to misclassify Moors or to impose any de facto claims of jurisdiction are herein rebutted forever. The misrepresenting persons of the corporate United States of America, in all capital letters, etc., allele, never had any legitimate, valid, or lawful claims of jurisdiction over the Moors of the land. Any acts or claims made by any representatives for the United States or any claims made by any of the representatives for the several states or by their agencies to the contrary constitute human trafficking, piracy, and acts of misprision and treason. Peonage has been their function and colors their purposes of operations. The same in other violations initiated against the Moors, such as taxation without representation, etc., are violations made against the Treaty of Peace and Friendship, are violations made against the United States Republic Constitution, and are violations made against international laws. These laws were established to protect aboriginal and indigenous natural peoples against colonial government, sponsored slavery, and genocide, etc. The officers of the three branches of government and the representatives of the United States and of the several states are bound by oath, by affirmation, and by law to support the laws of nations against genocide, etc. Any laws or constitution of any state to the contrary notwithstanding. I hereby declare to all our brothers and sisters of the nations of the earth that the Moors of Northwest Amaxium are awake, are mentally competent to inherit our estate, and are, with focus, making sincere efforts against all colonial odds and oppositions to take our place among the affairs of men. As Moorish Americans, the heirs and stewards of the land, our first order of business is to restore the balance of nature on this continent. I sincerely appeal to your humanity and ask your help, Moors and true seekers of justice, in bringing all violating people foreign to this continent to justice, to have them account for their treasonous, genocidal treatments made and initiated against the Aboriginal Moors of Northwest Amaxium. I affirm for the record that the Moors have been, I affirm for the record that Moors have never been, nor can they ever be, U.S. corporate citizens, regardless of any misguided claims or misgivings presented or made by any deceiving persons. That same declarative affirmation is made to counter any falsely implied agreements made or assumed by any social or political considerations or colored legislation. This supreme truth stands whether or not the Aboriginal Moors were then or are now conscious of their true nationality and birthrights or not. Moors could never be citizens / members of the European colonies / guilds, whether the Europeans were Inquisition colonists or whether they were among those authorized to exist and do business on this continent by our forefathers, the Emperor of Morocco. This truth of the Moors' primogeniture and hereditary birthright status has been reaffirmed by Moorish and or African history, by world history, and verified on countless occasions by the European colonists and by their descendants in their relentless effort to hide ancient history and to distort truth. Therefore, and in accord with nature's law, birthrights by title, by heirship, and in harmony with international law, we, the Moorish American Aboriginals of the land, Northwest Amaxium, and or Northwest Africa, and or North America, and or the North Gate, exercise and affirm our substantive rights to self-determination and seek to determine our own rightful political status, commanding our rights to freely pursue our own economic, social, and cultural development, inclusive of our distinct cultural life of the state, and make public notice of our freehold claim to all of our estate and properties, trusted only to the Moorish nation of Northwest Amaxium and absent of European colonial oppression, misadministration, and a rebut of any assumed power of attorney, or taxation without representation, etc. This international proclamation and affidavit of status is a declaration of national standing and a published reclamation of a state at law. Notice to agent is notice to principal. Notice to principal is notice to agent. Affidavit. Affidavit, all Moorishe American nationals, Aboriginal, Indigenous, divine beings, manifested in human flesh, do declare by virtue of divine law under the Zodiac Constitution and upon the United States Republic Constitution and upon the honor of our foremothers and our forefathers, that the above proclamation and affidavit is true and correct to the best of our knowledge and honorable intent. This affidavit is dated the 22nd day of the 5th month in the year of my Lord Allah, 1431, C.C.Y. 2011, July 22. Signed by the two brothers that I mentioned earlier. Carbon copy to United Nations High Commission for Human Rights, Powlis Wilson, International Criminal Court, Louis Marino Ocampo, The Hague, the Netherlands. International Justice Court, The Hague, the Netherlands. Great Seal National Association of Moorishe Affairs, G.S.N.A.A.M.A. Minister Anadil. Great Seal National Association of Moorishe Affairs, G.S.N.A.M.A. Minister Tarik Bey. United States Justice Department, United States Attorney General Eric H. Holder. All capital letters, United States Secretary of State Hillary Rodham Clinton. Moroccan American Associate of NC 200 Pomona Drive, Unit F, Greensboro, North Carolina, 27407. Mr. Caldini and Mr. Arif. Embassy of Morocco, His Excellency Mohammed Benassa, Miss Layla H. Benassa, Ambassador E&P, Moroccan Consulate in New York, United States Consulate of Morocco, Organization of America State, O.A.S. Richard Mario Dominguez, Embassy of Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela, Minister Consular Louis H. Bawley G. Lorenzo D. Diaz, Embassy of Cuba, Consulate General of Cuba, People's Republic of China Embassy, Consulate General of People's Republic of China, Embassy of South Africa, Consulate General of South Africa, Inter-American Commission on Human Rights, Felipe Gonzalez, all capital letters, U.S. Department of Homeland Security, Secretary Janet Napolitano. That is the completion of that document. I hope that the information displayed in that document was encouraging, aspiring, motivating, enlightening, maybe even profound, and informational to you. With that being said, that is all I have at this time. Peace and grand rising. Peace and grand rising. Peace and grand rising, family.